When people say things like AI produces 30% of my code, that tells me nothing. I'm actually scared of these kind of companies because if there is no clear ownership of the code, if something breaks, who's accountable? You're a CEO of a company. If I come to you and say, I'm your engineer and I write 10,000 lines of code, you'd be like, so what? Exactly. I'm not in the business of writing code. I'm in the business of creating value for my customers. Are you creating that value? Yes or no? That's the metric that we need.
Where should they be focusing to get their productivity up?
The core thing.
Hello, everyone. This is Suresh Matthew, as always, your host. Welcome to One Idea Podcast. The idea is very simple. We talk about one idea that works. No fluff, no marketing, one engineering idea that worked for a great leader. Today, I have Rachit Lohani with me, CPTO at many companies. He has awesome insights that most leaders do not have access to because he has worked closely with many startups, many other execs, and in this industry for such a long time. Welcome, Rajat, to the show.
Thank you.
This is probably the most important topic discussed today in the industry. How can we use AI to boost my engineering productivity?
There are two aspects to it, right? One is the maturity of AI, and then how do you drive adoption when there are a lot of unknown unknowns? What do I mean by that? The first one, maturity of AI. There are startups coming up every single day, right? And there is so much money flowing into this ecosystem, and you're seeing the results. A lot of companies trying to disrupt or figure out what all can AI do. But with this one comes a lot of unknowns. Right? What would the future look like? Because it's moving so fast. The second one is lack of guardrails. Because it's evolving so fast, we don't know, there is no steady state. So we don't know what guardrails to put in place so that we don't veer off track and then cause accidents. And it gets challenging for everyone. CRO wants to see an impact. CTO wants to make all of that happen. But it costs a lot, and it requires you to have the right talent density, people who understand it. Put that two together, you have an uphill battle. Right? How do you embrace AI with the right guardrail so you see the right results? It's not easy, but it's always a fun conversation.
I use AI and my developers write just 20% of the code. It's a very solid statement to make. And maybe right. You can double click into it and say, you know what, how much of that is useful and deployed to production today? That's a very different question. But there is a lot of pressure back to the CTO every time that conversation happens, right? We are not using AI to its fullest, right? So how can we do more?
You know what makes it more challenging is when a lot of people put metrics into the conversation. And a lot of these times, these metrics are vanity metrics. Like, as an example, right? I love fitness, and I know you do too. So if I come to you as a Suresh, I'm really into fitness. You know what I do every day? I weigh myself 3 times a day. What does that tell you about me? Nothing.
Yes.
Right? I could be standing on the scale 24/7, but that adds zero value. Similarly, line of code. I could come to you and be like, yeah, you and I are in the exact same business, but my app has more lines of code than yours. That is not a metric. So when people say things like, AI produces 30% of my code, that tells me nothing. I'm actually scared of these kind of companies because if there is no clear ownership of the code, if something breaks, who's accountable? Are you putting enough thoroughness in your architecture, in your design, in your testing, in your implementation, in your rollout? That is what we should be focused on. That is what an engineer focuses on. Writing code is like 30% of what an engineer does. You take 100% of my day, you zoom in on 30%, and then say, if AI replaces all of this, I won't need new engineers. No. Incorrect. If you make me productive here, I can focus on the outcome. So just making this a core metric of the organization is not healthy. It's like in 2007, 8, 9, when we did not understand, when we did not have frameworks like Dora, we used line of code as a throughput metric.
Yep.
Like, you are a stellar engineer if you write 10,000 lines a week. And now we look back and go, that was such a silly idea. Like, lines of code do not mean anything. So we are on the same maturity curve with AI as well. We don't know what to use, so we just use the easiest thing possible, which is how much code was produced by AI. That means nothing to a business. Like, you're a CEO of a company. If I come to you and say, I'm your engineer and I write 10,000 lines of code, you'd be like, so what? Exactly. I'm not in the business of writing code. I'm in the business of creating value for my customers. Are you creating that value? Yes or no? That's the metric that we need to use.
We have a framework that we use typically. I think it has to mature, but this is what I have seen working out well with the Eng team that we have. For them, they look at the code, they make sure that the boilerplate is never written. It's always AI. The next step is now, before you even write anything and check anything in, make sure you know what you're doing. right? Because it's a very big problem, right? So that's where they create the 10 tickets that say, you know what, these are the 10 things I want to do. And there is test code also that can be AI written. But the crux of the code, you start writing.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly the point you mentioned. When there's a production issue, you cannot really rely on someone else to solve it for you. So that's where we figure out where we can deploy AI, and the engineers figure out where they should not be deploying AI. The question for you is, Rachit, I'm sure you have seen this problem statement in your last 3 companies too, right? So you had to up your productivity, you had to push it down. How exactly would you think a VP of Eng or a CTO should be looking at this problem, should be handling this question? Where should they be focusing to get their productivity up?
The job of any AI tool is to remove noise and give signals to people. That is the core of any application. Humans are really good at innovation. We can come up with new ideas, new concepts. Machine, I don't know we are there yet, right? So if you remove all of the distraction from my life and just say you have 40 hours every week, instead of being in these meetings or these discussions, we'll distill all the information and provide it to you so you can guide machine that will write code for you. That is my ideal life. Because now I'm focused on creativity. I'm focused on helping the business grow and solve a problem. So that is the crux of anything. So now coming back to productivity. As a CTO, you are under a lot of pressure to deliver results for your business. As a product leader, I'm responsible for translating or for being that conduit between my sales teams who are on the field selling the software and between CSMs who are supporting the software and then the builders who are building the software. Because I come from tech, so I understand what they mean. I've spent enough time with CSMs and sales where I understand what the intent is. So I can put it together and work with my teams to show them the results, giving them the right tools, creating that ecosystem of the right tools that will help them accelerate to meet the business goals. One of the important things that I need to do as a leader is to make sure I paint the full picture of the things that we have done. Because this is what happens, and this is very common. You are the leader, right? You say, Rachit, we're starting the year, let's do planning. We will do items 1 to 10. I'm like, that's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense. We all agree that these are the 10 most important things. 3 months into it, 6 months into it, we all know these 10 things are not the most important thing anymore. Let's change the list. We will keep 1 to 5, and then we will add A, B, C, and D. The year ends, and then you and I are having a conversation. You go, I'm very disappointed in my engineering team. We did not deliver B, C, and D. And I go, that is very interesting because we delivered 1 to 10 and we delivered A and we delivered E. So we went above and beyond the actual commits. But guess what? The business had to pivot, which is absolutely the right thing to do. But no one gets the credit for all the work that was done because these are wasted features. We don't want them anymore. And then that goes into my tech debt bucket, which is a good problem to have for a really growing business because you will make changes, right, to the strategy because you're now being nimble and agile. But this has implications on how the platform is built. So there is some wasted cost as the platform grows. The CTO's job is to provide that holistic picture and say, how can I make these pivots seamless, easier, and lower the cost? So that is where architecture planning, design planning, and looking a little forward out, working with sales to understand where is this industry headed is very, very critical. A lot of companies make that mistake by hiring a super technical CTO who does not care about the business, who's decoupled from the product or the business, but they're really good at the technical implementation. So they do their job really, really well, keeping the past and the present in mind, but they don't have insight into the future. And that's by design, because they are not coupled with the business. They're not spending enough time with their CROs, with their AEs, with their CSMs. So they design a beautiful platform, and you don't use 60, 70, 80% of it. As a CEO, as a leader, as a CRO, you are frustrated with engineering. So this is where it's important for CTO to spend a lot of time with the AEs, with the CSMs, to understand how is the platform being sold? How is it being used? What are we promising? Where is this industry going? So spend more time with analysts. And then take that knowledge, break it into technical component, and then bring it back to your teams and guide them accordingly.
So you end up really wasting 40% of everything. That's okay, right? Because you pivoted. So that's awesome. But this 40% is also slowing you down in the next year because you now have to manage and maintain it.
Yeah.
How do you balance it? Do you throw it away? Do you make sure that you clean up?
So in your earlier stage, the goal is to create maintainable assets. You will have some waste. You might not have enough time to clean it all up. But you create a boundary around it and say, this is not changing at all.
I see.
Just contain it. Companies that are evolving, focus on them more. So what we've done in the past is we have created teams like in one of my previous gigs, I called it SPE, which is Special Project Engineering. And project because this has a start and an end. It's not a product anymore. And the project is either clean up the code and you minimize and you put a boundary around them and say, this is your job to maintain this code and slowly taper it off so we can get rid of it.
A little controversial question. So do you have a favorite tool in this AI world?
I love Cursor's experience, but I love Claude's implementation.
Got it.
So these are the two of my favorites, but I've also seen Lovable, and I like how you go from UX to design really, really fast.
So having the big picture is extremely important. We have to make sure that everything is aligned. But there are times when sales is not happening, but the responsibility or the usual suspect is engineering not delivering features. This is a controversial topic, not just between CEOs and CTOs, engineers versus product managers. This is discussed on the board as well, right? Yep. Why we're not selling enough? How do you tackle it? Do you think, first up, is that true? Is that a true statement in most cases?
So my core belief is everything, end of the day, is a product problem, right?
Okay.
If your users are not using the app, it is a product problem. It's a SaaS business. You're selling software, and if you're not able to do your task, it is a software problem. But marrying it to one delivery is not okay. If you're not able to do your sales, if your churn is high, usage is low, this is a company problem, not an engineering problem. You are tech, I am sales. I go out and sell this problem or sell this solution on a promise that we will deliver something in 12 months. It's not on your roadmap.
100%.
But I did my job. I closed a deal. Am I the villain? No. I added to the top line. But then you look at it and go, holy moly, this is like an expensive feature. No one's using it. It is very focused on this one customer. It does not open up new markets for us. Now I'm designing my software keeping this one customer in mind. And I'll be like, well, Suresh, look, man, like it's a $1 million ARR. You got to do it.
I like it.
And now you're trying to balance it. Be like, I have to put 20 engineers on this one feature, so I'll have to slow down everything. But you have other AEs selling the solution as well. And they're coming with their own requirements. And then now the CEO is watching us talk. So he's like, okay, what if I give you more people? You could, but you are going into a domain that you don't want to. So this becomes a business problem then, right? How do you ensure that you're funding the right areas by sometimes taking these hits? So this is where guardrails, your strategy, is very important. What I've always used is this framework. Always start from mission, vision, strategy, structure, roles, people, process, technology. You see, technology is level 8. So every business problem is like peeling this onion. You always start with, is your mission clear? Yes. Is your vision clear? Where do you want to be? Yes. Is your strategy aligned with your mission and vision? And this is where a lot of teams falter. They make short-term decision, which deviates from mission and vision, but we want to make the next 90-day goal. Like for a public company, I gotta go out and talk about growth. I need to close something, or else the market would not react well. So we are in an environment where we are incentivized to solve for the short term. And this is why a lot of VCs win, because they're in for the long haul. So now you can think about in terms of years, like what's my 12-month strategy? What's my 18-month strategy? What's my 2-year strategy, 5-year strategy? And place your bets accordingly and not optimize for the short term. This mission, vision, strategy, structure, role, people, process, technology is just not for the C-suite. It's even for an intern coming into the company, where they look at things and go, I'm building this. Is this aligned with the structure? Do I have the right support? Because if I'm working on AI and you have a very tight legal department who would not approve anything, I'll be stuck with them for 6 months.
Exactly.
So you start to call out these areas and go, as a company, are we streamlined to deliver the experience that supports our mission, vision, and strategy? If everyone does that, you start to solve problems faster.
100%. Now, let me take you to a very different topic, right? Everybody is thinking of like 10 scripts that are creating 1,000 lines of code, and that code for an R&D works. you asked to use something to do, say, GPU optimization, right? It's a very easy problem statement for LLMs, right? Write code like this, you will execute. In fact, you can see the results also. And people would think that this is how projects are built. If I can build this R&D project and it's running end to end, now I saw somebody doing it. I see it in action, okay? It's first-hand information. How do you make sure that you protect your developers? I use the word protect like consciously, right?
Yeah.
Because now either you are unproductive, you're not smart, and you're out, or you better generate something.
A little bit context. I'm taking break from work, right? 90 days, I don't want to work. So I'm spending a lot of time with leaders across the industry to understand what are their pain points. That way I can educate myself from different scales, different industries, different kind of challenges. I was talking to this one SVP, and he was visibly upset that we keep running into these hurdles with AI adoption. He shared his narrative, and it made a lot of sense. So I asked him, if I give you a fully AI car that relies on a lot of sensors and get data, the promise is if everyone's autonomous, this is the magical dream.
Yep.
But that is the key. There are no people in this equation.
Exactly.
And that is what will make you successful. These are the guardrails.
Yep.
But in a business, you have people.
Yep.
You have a mix of people in AI tool as a leader of that organization. Your job is to make sure that you have end-to-end visibility into the ecosystem. Because now you're dealing with a hybrid state. You have people making changes, you have AI making decisions on these decisions. And these decisions could be right, could be wrong, could be human error. Machines are not designed yet to incorporate that and be like, someone made a mistake, maybe I should ignore that part, because they don't have the right context, right? So it's less about tooling, more about the ecosystem that you provide in your environment. That's what we talked about. We said there needs to be right guardrails. So if you deploy a tool, make sure that tool is autonomous enough and it's getting all the right signals can make the right decision. That is how you avoid production outages. But just deploying a software and be like, it's going to work in production, that is a recipe for disaster.
So now, we just discussed that code is one option. If a CEO were to look at AI as an experimentation platform, is there any other place that he should be looking to deploy this?
A lot of areas. So things like your legal department, you have tools for that. Your finance department, you have tools for that. The world that we live in, we're given very clear metrics, like your gross margin should be certain percent. Your net margin should be a certain. So we have, every leader has this chart. You look at it, go, I'm doing $1 billion in revenue. My S&M percent should be this much, like 10, 12, 15, 18%. My R&D should be like 10, 12%. My G&A should be about 12%, right? So we follow all of these metrics. All of that is garbage now because you have that tools where you can drive more efficiency. And as a result of it, we will see layoffs. That is the point. Because the efficiency will go up, everyone gets an assistant. That also talks about the maturity. Remember the autonomous car, L1 to L5? The same thing happens in AI. L0 is you have zero AI, zero automation. Everything is manual. Great. L1 is you introduce that in certain areas to experiment and see how it goes. L2 is everyone gets an assistant. So it's still human in the loop, but the assistant is doing all the work.
Got it.
Right? And then you get to the next level where assistant does the work and human becomes the reviewer. And then the next level, which is assistant has capabilities to make changes, and then human reviews it after the fact. There's no gatekeeping. And then after that, there is no human in the loop. So that is the maturity curve that we are going through. And we are still, most of the companies are around L1, L2, right? What we expect is all these numbers around how much do you deploy of what percent of revenue will start to go down. So you need slightly fewer engineers because everyone has an assistant. It will record your calls. It will create a checklist of what the things that you need to do. Send it to everyone. So
next steps.
It takes the cognitive load away from sales. Now, sales can focus more on relationship building because enterprise sales is all about relationship building. And same thing with HR. So it impacts everyone. It just depends on where are you on this maturity curve and how aggressive do you want to go.
If you were to take the next job tomorrow, right, to give you a size of the company, let's say 500 million revenue company, which means a risk could probably put the company in jeopardy, right? What is one thing that you would close your eyes and say, you know what, this is my first strategy, right? First thing that I can close my eyes, I don't have to even talk to anyone, but this is a clear winner if I deploy AI.
I'm scared of that number. 500 million, this would be a sweaty experience. But where could you close your eyes and deploy AI? Nowhere. because the risk is just too high. But with the right guardrails, if I were to do it, I would start that in engineering because it's slightly away from my customers. I cannot upset the customers. Make sure we all understand what risks it brings to the table. How do we embrace it as a company? And then start to drive a cultural shift towards embracing that as an assistant. Like, hey, sales, this is your assistant. This is not here to replace you, but to augment your capabilities.
Exactly.
So you can focus more on relationship building because our ACV is now going up.
So basically, level up. That probably is the best way to look at it. So everybody is comfortable with AI coming in.
Exactly.
So they welcome AI. What are the biggest mistakes that you have seen with others or with your own experience, especially deploying AI?
Not I've seen, I've committed. We all have committed since, and my list is long, my friend. Common mistakes. Giving into the pressure that we got to do it now.
Okay.
Versus thinking about got to do it right. With AI, that is the biggest risk because the reality is a lot of us are sitting on critical data set. And if there is no human in the loop, no one's telling AI that this is PII, this is wrong, that is wrong. You cannot share this. How do you create the right foundation for this data to be persisted so AI works at scale for the customers? If you just move fast, you are signing up for a lot of risks, leaking things that you don't want to. The goal is to understand how will people use it, what are my guardrails, and how am I instilling them right now by controlling the rollout, by controlling the user behavior, by saying no to certain questions, certain interactions, and being very deliberate about building these capabilities.
The next aspect is really cost. How do you measure ROI? Maybe that's the right way to look at it.
That is a really hard thing because everyone is in an experimentation mode. When you're doing an experiment, you cannot measure ROI. But what you can do is you can put a fence around it and say, I will deploy 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, and see what the results are. The prime example of this is OpenAI. Do they have a business model? Not yet. They plan to spend like $500 million.
If they start burning it today, it'll probably take a few years for them to just get it done.
Exactly.
So they have a lot of money in the bank, so
Right.
they don't have to worry about it.
Right. But like for a sustainable business, like right at this point of time, it's not a sustainable business because the money coming in and what you're burning, it's not. You don't have a clear path to get there. But OpenAI is an experiment for the planet. We have never dealt with this kind of power consumption. We have never dealt with this level of disruption on reliance. And how could this shape humanity? But this is still an experiment. So what do? We don't know. We do not measure ROI on that. We don't measure ROIs for experiment. You build a hypothesis and say, these are the things that I will do, and this is the result that I expect. And the question is, how much can you afford? So you put that amount and go, hey, I want to use Claude. It's $20, $30, $40, and I'm going to give it to 100 of my developers and see if it actually makes them more productive. And that starts the cultural change where you start with, hey, going forward, don't worry about the test cases. Let Claude do test cases for you. Now, the question for the VP of engineering would be, is it good enough? AI still is an experiment. ROI would not be the right measure. It's all about how much can you afford? What can you afford? And when you go with that mindset, you make sure there are the right guardrails because you got to fence it. If you don't, then you ready for blowbacks and fires in production, and people getting upset, and all these things, right?
Whenever someone is asked to review, I'm just shifting the responsibility from me to you.
Yeah.
Right? We are already there at a point where you don't need review. That's when you're really helping someone. Let's say there's a bug, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you had a developer, right?
Yeah.
He could come walk into your room and say, you know what, Rachit, it's not me. It's the tool that you picked, right?
Yeah.
That put the bug in. You asked me to use the tool.
Yeah.
That's the one that put the bug in.
Yeah.
It tested it.
Yeah.
Not me. If we are helping developers, they should be able to wash their hands off and say, you know what, not me.
Agree.
Right? And he should be able to say that to the CTO too, right? I can come in and say, I have zero responsibility in this change. It's all done by this AI, and we have to train it better. Maybe that's the thing. Does it make sense? I mean, that
It does. But it's nuanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I buy a SaaS platform, I need that SaaS platform to be a black box for me.
I
What
see.
you do inside of it, I do not care. But I will hold you accountable. This is your tool.
Yeah.
But when I'm using a generative tech,
Okay, got it.
where I want ownership internally, because I'm building IP now,
100%.
right? So this is where, I was clear about one thing, accountability. If you merge the code generated by machine, you own it.
Yeah.
Because you
100%.
said, I read it, looks good,
Yeah.
it's mine now.
Yep.
Merge.
So as long as you are relying on a generative technology, you better own it because there has to be someone to fix it. In your experience, right, what is the one thing that a startup should treat as a red flag when it hits it? And what is one thing that should be tolerated?
Green flags. Your engineering team spending more time with sales and CSMs. That's a huge green flag. A productive engineer is the one who understands the business problem.
Perfect.
Who understands it really well? It's CSM and AEs. They are the ones facing prospects and customers. When there are no boundaries between CSM's products, if you're in a room with products, sales, and CSMs, and you could not tell who's who, they all defend each other. They all protect each other and keep the customer or the prospect in mind. That is a huge green flag. Other green flags, everyone in sales has a consistent script and it's value driven.
Perfect.
It's never about, oh, they are terrible.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is bad.
yeah.
That is bad.
Okay.
And hence buy me. No, that is not a good story.
Perfect.
We are different because this is what we do and we do it really, really well. When the C-suite can go deep into the product, because after a certain scale, it gets challenging. But still, I love the leaders who are a little more hands-on. As a CTO, you don't have to be hands-on on code, but you should be able to explain the architecture. Same thing with CRO. You should be able to pitch the product. So if it's a trust-based organization, huge green flag. What about red flag? When the company starts to focus too much on margins. So you're running the company through balance sheet. That is not a good sign.
Especially in early stages.
Early stages, never do that, right? When CEOs start to talk in terms of quarters versus product, that's never a good sign. When engineers say, I did the right things, why is it not working in production? I don't know. That's not a good sign. That means the distance has increased too much. When conversation shifts from market to very specific customers, that is not a good sign. So then you need to figure out what is the market that we're in. So these would be my high level.
That's a good one. As
Yeah.
a small company, should a company completely avoid these large customers or?
That's how you make money. So one thing that I love about your approach is you are very deliberate about what you will do and what you will not do. So when you say, I have a large security company, a large pharma company, you signed up for things that was your ICP. So irrespective of what they do, you do not care.
Exactly.
You care about this part and you do it really, really well. And then you extend capabilities, keeping the core in mind. You're not tied to one customer. You're tied to the capability that you believe in is the winner. And that is how your people are selling it then.
Exactly.
Because you are passionate about it. You have the background. You're like, I've done this so many times. I know the pain points. I was the operator once. And I want to solve that pain point, right? So that is core. Knowing your ICP and how do you look at TAM.
We generally try to keep that discipline. There are times when we see a new feature that's not used by anyone else, but we feel confident that this is a feature that's required, that will be useful. We call it least common denominator exercise, right?
Yep.
So we generally do that exercise and make sure that we see 5 prospects that can use it immediately if you do it, right? And we do that validation with those 5 conversations. So we just go to them and say, you know what? Assume we build this feature.
Yeah.
Would you guys be interested, right?
Yep.
That validates. So
Yeah.
we have enough customers that we can do that validation. That's a luxury that we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, got it. Thank you so much for being here. The next company that you decide to go to, good luck with that. I know it'll be a huge success for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for making this happen. This is a wonderful experience.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.